Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Loadbang's Power Chats, a 20-minute chat with composer who we're working with as a way both to introduce the new work and to better understand how people's minds and music work. Today, we're very lucky to have Augusta Read Thomas, who was our guest this summer at Divergent. It's the summer festival that we run, and whom the kids almost immediately took to as a real musician to adore and a human to love. On Sunday at 4 p.m. at St. Charles Borromeo in Brooklyn, we're going to open the concert with Gusty's new fanfare for us. And I mean, we have a bunch of questions for you, Gusty, but perhaps you could just talk us through Calliope. There's this mythic figure that kind of, though we don't have any text in the piece, she sort of looms over the fanfare, lends it some breadth. Where and when did that show up in the process?
Well, first of all, thank you, Ty, for that introduction, and thank you all. I really appreciate all that you've done. So many composers, so many works, a lot of hard work, recording after recording after recording. It's really a beautiful and important, meaningful whole set of years of projects you've been doing. And I loved being with you at Divergent in Cambridge this summer. I mean, I loved it. I still am getting emails from people from this. I mean, it was really, really a special and wonderfully prepared, amazing event. So I feel very blessed to be with you all. So when you all reached out to me with the opportunity to compose for you, I was, of course, thrilled and humbled because I've been watching you for such a long time. And I started to think, what could I do? Because it's not, for me, the easiest instrumentation. It's just a very unusual instrumentation, which I find inspiring and opening up spaces for creativity and new ways of thinking, thanks to the four of you being such virtuosi and playing so well together and so forth, but also just thinking about what one could do. And I had the good fortune to watch your whole website. I just went through and listened to everything, even though I'd heard a lot of them, before, because I just wanted to see, okay, what is this beautiful body of work and what kinds of things have composers done? And it occurred to me that you guys didn't really have just a straight up fanfare, just boom, come out and whoop, done. It could start a concert or end a concert or be an encore or something. And I thought that would be fun to write a little 4-minute piece that's virtuosic for all four artists, and yet is also an ensemble piece where you're very much, needing to play together, but it's not like everybody playing together all the time. So there's sort of this workings out of these larger events and then solely that flash through. So because you, Ty, are a fabulous, fabulous writer on top of being an amazing singer and 500 other things that you're fabulous at,
it's just
it's just the two. Okay. Well, in any case, I was thinking it would be kind of interesting to just refer to Calliope, because you always see, this writing tablet and also this sort of muse of beautiful things. And it occurred to me, for a fanfare, it might be interesting to just do a vocalese, because the fanfare will mean the same thing in any place in the world, rather than having a particular language or particular words or forcing it in a particular direction. Now, that is not to say that I don't love words and poetry and literature, because I'm very, very involved with those. But in this particular case, it made more sense to me to just make it a vocalese, where Ty could be singing any number of vocal sounds, like ah, e, ah, o, n, just having this kaleidoscopic opportunity for timbral change, and also depending on where in the register something is falling. Many of the vocal lines and also the other instrumental lines, I might add, are quite athletic or arabesque-like. So they're moving across a lot of different notes, and having an open throat and mouth seemed like the right way to go for this piece. So then I just set out to write a fanfare, starting with like the brass and then moving, toward the voice, because two of the instruments in your ensemble are great at fanfares, and in fact known for fanfares historically. So that's really quite interesting. And then, of course, what's interesting about the bass clarinet is that it fits in both. It's very vocal, but it can also be, in certain registers, extremely brassy. The clarinet is such a versatile instrument. The regular clarinet, I always tell my students the regular clarinet is 5 instruments. From the chalumeau all the way up to the clarino, it's a completely different instrument. And it's really the same with the bass clarinet. So it seemed like a really fun way to proceed. And I had a lot of fun writing the piece. I know it's a little tricky, but you guys are superstars. So I thought it's also interesting to me to think about virtuosity when there are 4 artists like you that can do it, that are so talented. I like to play into that virtuosity and also a kind of dimensionality, so that it's not just sort of one line that you're all playing or one texture that you're all playing, that there's counterpoint and harmony and harmonic rhythm and suddenly a solo and then a new vocal line appears. So I guess 2 words that would leap to mind are those: virtuosity and dimensionality.
Mm. There's a really amazing moment. I mean, we talked about this in Cambridge when we were working on it the first time. We were playing with some registration stuff, and we realized there's really only one moment when the bass clarinet drops to the bottom of its register. There's this kind of there's so much happening, and that moment is a kind of like strange verticality, this huge chord, then we snap back into it. How do you, when you have instruments that are sort of so far apart from one another in range, how do you think about orchestrating in color? Like, is it put everybody close together and find that out? How do you think about these extremes and balancing them so it's not totally washed the whole time?
Yeah, no, thank you. And I know exactly that bar. It's about 2/3 of the way through. And I had to build the harmony above it based on what is the lowest note of the bass clarinet. Because if the bass clarinet went down an extra whole step, then the trumpet line could be a little lower. But it can't do that because I really wanted these particular harmonies. And throughout the piece, in different guises, there is a plethora of harmonic investigation or development. So sometimes there's 4-note chords, sometimes there's like 3 notes and then somebody's joining, or sometimes there's little duets or something. So to build a harmonic rhythm across the piece that's varied. So it's not just like chord for 2 bars, chord for 2 bars, chord for 2 bars. Now we go back to the first chord for 2 bars. It's much more kaleidoscopic in that sense. And part of that is to your good question about the registers and the way a chord is voiced. And I love voicings. I've written a lot of orchestral music and thinking about, exactly how you're spacing a chord or where the common tones are or which note you are weighting, WEIGHT, we're weighting more against another note that's maybe in the background. And I think even though this is a quartet, there's a lot of that going on in the sense that the dynamics are really sculpted. Like every single note has a dynamic shape, and you guys have crossfades, and if one of you is going to mezzo forte, but the other one's going to forte, I meant it. And, this kind of thing, so that we get an interesting foreground, middle ground, and background. And it's not just all, everybody does the exact same crescendo, or everybody does, that kind of thing. So yeah, in terms of the harmony and also the weighting of the pitches within the harmony, and which pitch is the main pitch around the others orbiting, and which one is the one that's kind of slipping away. That's the common tone that's going to rotate into the next object or something like that, so that the reason for the pitches is not the same. Sometimes it's a harmonic reason, sometimes it's a melodic reason, sometimes it's a contrapuntal reason, and so on and so forth.
Oh, I'm really curious. When you talk about the pivoting from chord to chord, in your process, do you have any systems that you use? Do you plan out those like pivots, or do you just like kind of intuit and go with your instinct when you compose?
Well, just let me say in parentheses, I love so much how you start this piece. I love it. Like when you play those first notes, it's just riveting. I just can't get over it. So thank you. And it was perfect how you played it. So I have a piano. You can't see it but it's right behind me. And I like to make up chords. So I will actually like play, usually quite quietly, just like what the chord might be, and like one note is louder, and then what the harmony could be, or how I could extend it with more overtones, or what if I change the fundamental pitch 2 octaves lower, how it really changes the meaning of the object that's there. So in some ways, we could think of U4 at some point as this is not quite right, but basically like the overtones of a much lower note we're not hearing, if you know what I mean, or something like that, so that there's relationships to each other that have meaning. So I usually am just playing those at the piano, and then often singing them and just trying to feel how a note feels, or also how long a note needs to be. Because if there's a lot of energy, like if you do some like dramatic trombone thing and then all of a sudden like everybody jumps in, it maybe we just need you to hold it for 2 extra beats so that we open the space for the others to join. You know, whether how many beats do you need? Do you need 2 beats? Do you need a beat and a half? How much air have you got in your lungs? I'm trying to determine that. And, you know, these kinds of things, so that there's a sense, despite the a lot of notes in the piece, there's a sense of breath, or of feeling how the space feels between the moving objects.
Yeah, it's always so lovely. It feels really organic, but it also feels like it avoids like any tropes whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just curious how you kind of come at it.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know if I should probably have some more logical system, but I just write music by ear.
Sounds good.
And for me, that's the hardest way to do it, is just to like really pick out every last little nuanced detail of all dimensions. It's very time consuming, but that's for me more interesting. It's like putting together like, detailed objects.
You and I, you know, both of us being in Chicago, we had the chance to meet up as you were writing the piece, before and after the first draft was finished. And I wish sometimes that an audience could see the way, obviously, of course, the job of the performer is to do this, but I wish the audience could see the way a composer sings their music to themselves. I learned so much in that moment from watching you, even just improvising through what the gesture might sound like. The energy in your voice, the energy in your body communicated almost immediately what the piece needed to be and what kind of language to tilt towards as we were working together. There's a real sense, it's a kind of magic trick that you managed to achieve, that the music is utterly inherent upon your energy and your body, but you managed to make this really organic space for different bodies that have different tendencies. You managed to invite them into that space without requiring them to be utterly like you. It's a really it's a kind of like humanistic magic.
Well, you're very, very kind. I loved our session, and just to bring it to life for people, Ty, we're in the same building a lot, basically. And I asked Ty if he could possibly, spend half an hour, I can't remember what we did. And so we just went up into the concert hall and improvised. And the way it went down is I just asked Ty to just sing anything. I don't care. Just sing absolutely anything you want to sing, of any tradition or style and so forth. And then we started improvising, where I would sing things like, can you do something like this? And then he would sing it back to me. And then I'd like go, but can you add some trills? And then he'd add the trills. And then I would say, okay, make the long notes longer. And then I would sing it sort of terribly in some kind of little thing that I was thinking. And then Ty would like make it much better. And we weren't notating or recording anything. I was just trying to feel the beauty of Ty's musicianship and instrument and dramatic person on the stage. And like, okay. And then as soon as I could see that, I'm like, I can see the piece. It was a bit strange thing. I mean, it was a lot of work to make it, but, just imagining what this could be. And, I know I was singing it at home too, just like trying to feel how it feels. And if the phrase lengths feel the right amount, and how much air do I have? And, these kinds of things. Like I feel that if I embody my pieces even very badly, which I can assure you is always the case, that it's very badly, but if I can do it, I know that an artist can do it. And I think they can feel that I felt it also. people can actually feel like, oh, she picked the length of this note because I can hear her hearing that or something like that. That's of interest to me. Like that even because a lot of the musicians I work with, I never meet. So I want to communicate in the music. Like I've made this for you and for you to embody and for you to bring your magic to it. So despite all the detail of my notation, I feel like if someone commissions me, I owe them a text, an actually well edited, thoughtful text. But then I want them to like take it to the next level rather than if I turn in something a little messy and everyone has to say, well, is it arco or is it pizz or what's the tempo or is there a fermata? We waste all that time and we can't sort of get to the next level. So I try to like really present a finished poem or whatever it might be, polished, and then I'm so grateful for the ingenuity, creativity, imagination, finesse, and all of that you bring to it.
Can I ask you a purely logistical question? Because we have emailed at odd hours, and the piece you were from that first session, it came back kind of fully formed within 2 weeks. When do you prefer to write? Are you an early morning writer? Are you a late night writer?
Yeah, well, I am. So I love to write music. It's my favorite thing to do. I love music so much. I love this kind of music and that kind of music and another kind of music and every other kind of music. And I've also tried to help support a lot of other people with their music and so on and so forth. Like, so I'm not just saying this, people of all backgrounds and syntaxes, vocabularies, aesthetics, and so on and so forth. But like my first love is just to write music. And I've been like that since I was a little girl. I'm weird. I admit it, but I've been writing music like every day for 45 years. And I realize that sounds like hyperbole, but it's actually true because I feel like if I don't write, I don't feel well. It's probably like I should get, it sounds probably really weird, but that's the way it feels to me. So I do like to write very early in the morning and it's just normal. I'm not like setting an alarm, but I am always working by 4 a.m. Always, because I wake up and I'm like, oh, I could do this, I could do that, I better do this. And then I have, my to-do lists of other stuff I have to do, like airline tickets and, whatever, the other stuff, but letters of reference and, all these other wonderful things that we all do. But I try in the morning to just do the composition. And in a perfect day, I can start at 4 a.m. and work till 10 at night, like literally. If I have nothing, like I can do 16 hours with no problem. But, typically one would do like 4 a.m. till 10:30 or something, and then the rest of the day starts. But on the other hand, if you concentrate a lot for 6 hours, for 2 weeks, it's already however many hours that is, over 100 hours that you're really focusing. So I also like to work in longer. I don't want to work for half an hour because I have to get into it and then I have to sing it and then I got to feel it and then I've got to like get into the vibe of the piece, and then I have to imagine what it could be, and then the half an hour is over. So I would rather do chores if I have short amounts of time and save the longer spends for the creative process to have time to, orbit and become something.
Yeah, it strikes me that you have a relationship to writing similar to what we do with like instrumental craft. Right. Like if I don't brush my teeth in the morning, I feel gross. If I don't practice, I feel gross. Right. Like it's sort of as a thing that you need to do for a certain amount of time. And I'm not sure that I've heard, sure there are plenty of people who do, but I'm not sure that I've heard a composer talk about it like that. George Saunders talks about writing in the same way. He wakes up and even if he's not actively writing a book or a story, it's just you sit down with a pencil and you write. Mm-hmm. And that's just a thing that you do every day.
Yeah, and also for you all, and for composers too, mental athleticism and imagination and so forth. But for you all, it's just, you got to buzz the lips and you got to get the mouthpiece on the mouth and, get your reed in place and just, it's just so technically physical.
So
Oh, sorry, Gusty.
No, go ahead. I'm just saying that I appreciate all the physicality, like when you guys are practicing that much, there's a reason that, then you can just come out and play it perfectly. But you can't or at least when I was playing, I couldn't, I had to like practice a lot. Otherwise I would slip and I'd hit like a wrong note, or I wouldn't have a good tone, or, you know what I mean? You have to kind of keep it up.
Right. So I imagine it's probably very rare that you're not actively writing a piece that is a commission, or that you have a project you're doing. But if there were that rare day where suddenly there's this gap between something that needs to be written versus all the deadlines have been met, what does that morning routine look like for you?
I haven't had that because I've been just working on projects for like 40 years, honestly. But I've always got requests and commissions and things.
Right.
But that doesn't. I think your question's a good one, because if I didn't, what would I do? I'd write music.
Right. That's what I'm getting at. Like, would you still? Doesn't have to be for anybody, but you're still sitting there putting pen to paper.
Absolutely, because it's hard work, but it's fun and it's interesting. Mm-hmm. And I think as long as I can only speak for myself, as long as my imagination is fertile and I've got all these ideas that I want to work out and different ways of doing things and so forth, I'm going to want to be making things. It's a joyous thing for me. And I guess if I run out of ideas, or I'm just repeating myself, or something, then maybe I won't be writing. But I have there's a consistent Gusty voice for sure across this body of work, but none of the two pieces are the same. Like, I'm constantly making up something new, like a new poem or a new novel or a new whatever, a new recipe or something for each specific piece. And that's what's also very inspiring about your instrumentation, because it's everybody has to really tailor make it for exactly what your beauty is. I think that's fabulous.
When do you think the period was that that things achieved Gusty, like moved from young composer figuring it out to identifiably your voice? Because I think you're right that, like, you hear a piece of music of yours and it is very clear who wrote it.
It couldn't be anybody else.
Right. Which is a hard thing to come by. But, is there like when do you feel like you found that?
Well, I wrote a lot as a young child, and they were all like epically bad, like piles of bad music, mountains of bad music. And so it took me a long time, but in doing that, I got, like, with each piece, I got like a little teeny bit better. Like, the harmony was better in the next one, or the harmonic rhythm flowed better, whatever. Tiny baby steps over decades or something like that. But then I think if one just keeps working really hard, one starts to get a little bit better. Hopefully, once in a while you make some improvements. But and then I withdrew all of my juvenilia, and it was hard because a whole bunch of it was published, and people still play it because libraries bought it. And I'm like, oh no, I wrote that when I was 14. Don't play it, please don't play it. That kind of thing. And then people are like, we like it, and I'm like, you can't like it. It's nothing good about that piece. But so once they're out, it's hard to control the early works and so on and so forth. But with everything that's published with G. Schirmer, now Wise Music, and Nimbus, anything that's on my website, I will stand by. Like, people may not like it, that's completely fine. But anything there are the pieces that I haven't withdrawn that I feel I could stick with. And I think the earliest is maybe like 1988 or something, when I was 24. But I had already written 15 years up to that point of a pile of junk. So it just takes a while to get into it.
Were you writing when you were a kid? Did you have guidance, or like, how were you? Because I feel like it's very weird to be a young kid writing all of this music. Like, how did this sort of start to happen?
Yeah, so I was playing piano badly, but I was playing every day and practicing and trying to learn how to play piano. And then my piano teacher would say, make something up. And then I'd make up a song that would be like one chord, like plink. I'll go, I made up a song, and she's like, great. What's it called? Oh, it's called Daisy Bird. Okay, Daisy Bird. Now let's learn how to write it down, that kind of thing. Make one up for next week. And then I'd make up another one that'd be like 2 chords long. So it was just, and all my stems were backwards and I didn't have the right clef, and, but just starting to learn, like you could actually write something down or make up your own sounds, or imagine your own chords, even while I was practicing, standard repertoire and so forth. So I think it was a good teaching, just open up a space and see what happens with no pressure. But then when I went to high school, I did get to take composition lessons and trumpet lessons and piano lessons, and I was in chorus, and I was in a little silly, high school rock band, and I did lots and lots of music stuff, brass quintet and so forth. But part of that was also having weekly composition lessons and trying to learn things little by little. I think with composition, a lot of it is just the hard work of doing it and having an imagination to want to do it. It just to keep all that energy going. It's either, at least in my case, it's either there or it isn't. It's not something one can fabricate, or at least I can't.
This is great.
Yeah, you're amazing. Thanks for this.
We try to, or otherwise
We could literally talk all day. Yeah.
What was that? Sorry?
We could literally talk all day if we wanted to.
Well, no, thank you so much. I wish I could be with you on Sunday, but I will be with you in spirit. And I'm really humbled that you're doing the piece again. And,
we'll play it extra loud so you can hear it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And thank you for including me in this wonderful conversation. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you,
It's
Gussie.
our
This is
pleasure.
great.
Thank you so much. Mwah.
Take care. Lots of love to you all.
You too.
Ciao.
Bye. Ciao.